if more than 75% of your focus is on hating the subject matter that you're speaking about, something's wrong with your philosophy. If the majority of what you focus on is of hating something else, something's fundamentally wrong with your thinking. Who wants to live like that?
Critical component to mind control. Being made over to be clones of the person who's at the top of the pyramid. Interested in the subject because of my own cult involvement. I was recruited in 1974 into a front group of the Moonies.
Hello, I'm Dr. Steve Hassan with another episode of Cults, Culture, and Coercion. So we're going to get into what's happening politically today with our guest, David Clayton, who, David, I've been watching your posts and liking it and sharing it on my stories for a while, and I'm grateful that you consented to this interview. I'll just say that your Instagram is Official Empathy Tour. You're also on TikTok, Empathy Tour. You have a large following there. But most importantly, you are running as an independent for District 5 in North Carolina against Virginia Fox. And you've been spending years of your life helping vets, wanting to help homeless vets in particular, drafted proposed legislation to house homeless vets titled the Character by Integrity Act. And you give very practical advice. And that's why I wanted you to come on. Also, you're a citizen advocate, which I love. So welcome to my podcast, David Clayton.
Dr. Hassan, thank you so very much for having me. It's my pleasure to be here.
Yeah, my pleasure. I pronounced my last name Hassan, even though it's spelled.
Pardon me.
It's okay. Everyone mispronounces it, but then I feel the need to correct them. So forgive me for my OCD or whatever, my perfectionism. So, David, first of all, we know that the current administration and people in the alt-right are making empathy a bad word and like labeling people like it's a character defect. Before I ask you directly, I'll just say as a mental health professional, I wrote in The Cult of Trump about malignant narcissists and how narcissists don't have empathy, that this is a personality a disorder where the person can't step into other people's shoes and feel for them and imagine what they think and feel. But that side is making it a bad thing because they don't have empathy. And you're like, I want to be official empathy tour. I want to. So tell us your story.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
How that came about.
I was one of those people. I was one of the people that, I was doing very well for myself in my life. And I got caught up in this misconception of our society that things and possessions and stature equals survival and self-worth. And I was miserable. I was absolutely miserable. And one late night working on a client's project, I think it was about 2 a.m, I looked down at my dog under, barely lit by a desk lamp. And he just, my little Chihuahua, Boomer, which is where the David Hang Loose Boomer comes from. I'm actually Generation X. I'm not a Boomer. But he kind of gave me this look, and I just had this moment of clarity where I had everything I could possibly want. I was the American dream of success and, this so-called means of survival. And I was absolutely miserable because in this moment of clarity, I found I didn't have any empathy for anybody else. I only cared about myself. And it just kind of hit me. And I remember it like it was yesterday. It was a stark realization of this whole question of the universe, the meaning of life, what's it all about, and why are we here? And that's when it just kind of came to me that if we can put aside, as Martin Luther King said, the narrow confines of our own individualistic concerns onto the broader concerns of all of humanity, then you really start to be able to appreciate and live a life of substance. And so that's where it just kind of came to me, well, we need some kind of like tour some kind of nationwide momentum for humanity's sake. Like rock bands have their tour, summer sanitarium tour, all these different things. I thought we need an empathy tour. So I decided to just kind of in a frantic mode, sell off everything I owned. All of the big stuff, all the furniture, the Italian leather sofas, everything, the flat screen TVs, and take all my camping gear and survival gear, and just thought, you know what, who in our nation has earned this life while we are still all actively trying to? And I thought that we have had for the longest time a horrible epidemic through our nation of homeless veterans. They're with a government that boasts a $1 trillion plus annual budget for our defense. There's absolutely no reason why there should be a single veteran sleeping on the streets that does not want to be. And a huge misconception when I started looking into it deeper is also the general knowledge or misknowledge of that, all of these veterans have substance abuse issues or are mentally unstable because of numbers that are not, the context of those numbers isn't fully articulated by our government. If you look deep into these issues, which, my OCD, I started prying into it. The VA puts out numbers that 78% of all veterans out there that are registered as homeless have some kind of substance abuse issue or are mentally unstable. The problem with that is that of those 78%, there's only about 75,000 veterans listed, registered with the VA as homeless. But NGO data has a number closer upwards of 250,000. So that means that there's approximately 125,000 plus veterans that are not registered as homeless, are not receiving benefits through the VA. And when the VA puts out the number of 78%, the general public just looks at every single homeless veteran on the street and thinks that guy's crazy, that guy's an addict, or woman. There's lots of homeless veteran women out there as well. And those numbers are just really misconstrued. So again, turning back to this moment of clarity, I thought, I've got everything I want. I'm miserable, and these people have already earned this life. I come from a long line of veterans, my family. I just do not feel like I am worthy of this life. It was a real moment of depressing clarity, but I wanted to then do something about it. So I set out to help veterans in need, drafted legislation, drove the country, went to DC, lobbied for a permanent total solution. And then I got the runaround. I got our representative really cares about veterans. Our representative really cares about their constituents. And nothing was being done, as always. So I came up with my drafted legislation, the Character by Integrity Act. I wrote it from a reverse perspective of how best could any quote unquote fiscal conservative argue against spending needed resources on those that have earned this life. And I wrote it backwards so that they couldn't break it down and say, well, we just can't afford it. I made it mathematically sustainable. And then when I was getting no real kind of effort going forward to pursue it. And this was during Trump's first term. I pitched it to the Trump administration. I pitched it to, it was Speaker Ryan at the time, Paul Ryan's office. I pitched it to Bernie Sanders' office. I pitched it to everyone regardless. And I gave them all the same pitch. I don't care if you tell the general public or meet the press that it came to you in a dream and you're the savior of this horrible problem our nation has suffered. Just get it done. And I got the blow off. I got the cold shoulder. And that's when I started formulating a plan of, well, I need to get into the Congress. I need to introduce this myself and shame those that say that they want to support our nation's veterans, support our nation's most vulnerable, support those that have already earned this life, into backing it or be on record that they're not.
So if I may, thank you for that. And I want to just comment on a number of things. First of all, you have a big heart. And so what I want to say is that the society over decades has been pushing individualism and narcissism, but it's not your core self. It's not a personality disorder, which we believe comes from the first few years of life where you really haven't felt loved. And so you don't have a self. You had a self, but it sounds like you got co-opted by the cultural indoctrination of be happy, buy things, as opposed to serve and put others before you, etc. And you had that epiphany. So that's one comment I want to make. Another comment I want to make is that I've had a horrible experience too with Congress people and senators who do talking points, but when I talk to them about practical things that would actually make a difference, nada, crickets. So I can validate that as an activist citizen. I too am just incredibly frustrated with the political system as it existed. Two more quick points. Jason Kander. Do you know who Jason is?
It sounds very familiar. Can you please remind me?
So Jason is a former, I believe, Army captain. He was in intelligence. He served, I want to say, in Afghanistan, came back, was mayor, I believe, of St. Louis. As a vet, had a PTSD experience. Obama brought him to the White House and said, you should run for president. And Jason was like, no, I gotta take care of myself. Like I wasn't in a combat situation where my buddy had his brains blown out like other people who've had post-traumatic stress, but just being what he was, where there might be an attack at any moment or a roadside bomb, he realized he really had PTSD. So he's done a lot of advocacy for vets. And in particular, there's a project in his city for modular housing for vets that you might want to check out. And I'm happy to introduce you to him. And then lastly, before we started recording, I asked you if you knew Christopher Goldsmith and Veterans Against Fascism and Task Force Butler, because I interviewed Christopher and you're like, oh yeah, we're friends. So tell us about Christopher.
Chris is a dear personal friend of mine. He's a combat veteran. Again, to remind your audience, I am not a veteran. I have never nor will ever claim that honor title. My family served. My civvy service is to support and help those in need that have served, those that honor their oath during and after service. But because of my advocacy for veterans and my family's lineage, I have a very large active duty and veteran community-based following, and I'm forever thankful and grateful for the community that we've all built together. And within that community and growing that community are people like Christopher Goldsmith. Yeah, Chris is a dear personal friend, and like so many of our group of friends, they continue their service even after service. And I have the utmost respect for them because even though the majority of them seem, fine and well put together, and these influencers and their personal work and what they do, like Veterans Fighting Fascism or Task Force Butler, a lot of them are still dealing with their inner demons and their inner nightmares of what they all endured. And there is, especially online, there is this unempathetic, this apathetic tone from a lot of what Christopher, I'm going to speak for you here, what you would call the vet bro community, which I know all of my veteran-based community are very familiar with, these apathetic kind of self-proclaimed alpha macho men type that make fun of people that are pogues, people other than grunts, logistics, enlisted and officers, and this apathetic tone of well, you're not a combat vet, so you didn't experience what we experienced. Well, people that were pogues or logistics had to deal with incoming mortar rounds and things of that nature every day just as taking your Humvee out and dealing with IEDs.
Right.
And so many, when I say I have the utmost respect, because there have been so many that have come home, did not get the treatment that they deserved
Right.
to get, and still deal with it, and still deal with the pain internally that they have to deal with, and to
Yep.
continue on work like someone like Christopher does,
Yep.
is just it kind of sets me aback a little bit, and just impressive. It's hats off to you, Christopher Goldsman.
Yeah, and I'll just add for my listeners who may not be familiar with Christopher, he has a beard and he's very active on social media. He was having his people infiltrate right-wing extremist groups in order to gather intel, in order to have them arrested. And when Trump issued the unconditional pardon of the J6 people, Christopher was like, these are the people we helped put into jail.
Right.
And now you've not only set them free and given them a pardon, but now you've empowered them to come after us who labored to put them in jail.
And not just the J6ers.
Right.
Task Force Butler has infiltrated some serious homegrown domestic, the literal definition of terrorist cells.
Yep.
in white supremacy groups.
Exactly.
So it's his work is needed. He has a T-shirt that says "Cops don't arrest Nazis, we do," or something to that effect. And unfortunately, this Trump administration is hell bent on not following and pursuing the rule of law and the actual justice system.
Yeah, he's demonstrated that consistently. They have talking points, Republican talking points, that they're for rule of law. We need to have strong immigration because it's against the law, and yet Trump violates law after law after law.
And now he's reworking his civil justice wing of the DOJ to stop trying to advocate for and help and protect marginalized communities, Black communities, LGBTQI communities, women,
women's rights,
and is now turning that civil rights division into a Christian white-wing nationalist protection force, vowing to not go after people that are guilty of hate crimes, but instead protect people that are putting out verbal abuse of hate crimes and things of this nature.
Exactly.
So it's completely antithetical of how it's supposed to be.
Right. And as we're recording this, last week, there was No King's Day protests around the country, around the world. There were over 21 countries, too, that were joining us in protesting that America rejected a king. That was at the birth of the United States of America. And that was very heartening, while Trump's measly 8,500 to 10,000 person turnout military parade, where he looked like he was asleep or grumpy through it. And I think it's true, but someone shared a Craigslist post offering $1,000 for people to come and be in his audience.
I saw that.
Buying an audience. But here's the big lie, right? He wanted 200,000 people. He got 8,500 to 10,000. But now he's saying there were 250,000 that attended. And I have no doubt they have AI'd video now.
And Fox News inserting fake applause and all these things.
Are overwhelming, AI figures in the audience. And that just speaks to the moment we're living in, that people really need to double check. Is this true?
Right.
What reputable places have verified? And like even Indivisible, who did the No Kings, started saying there was 5 million, then they said 6, then they said 11. I'm
so
like
13.8 last I checked, approximately.
I don't believe it. I want to wait for independent verification. So I'm fine with saying 5 million, and they say upwards of. 11 or
I think the
13.
point that really should be emphasized, especially by online creators that are advocating for truth and
Yep.
transparency, isn't so much specifically a specific number, but the comparison that Trump's parade had a turnout in support of it, roughly less than 1% in comparison to what the entire nation showed up for to protest a
Oh, it's less
king's
than
wannabe,
1%, I
less
think,
than
but
1%. But
but
that
I'm
comparison
terrible
is
with
what people
math.
should really focus on, is that, for the Trump administration continually lying and saying the word mandate, the nation mandated for him, mandate this, mandate this. Uh, the actual
No, they
numbers and
hacked the
turnout and protests
election.
are showing a very, very different result as far as the population is concerned.
Yeah. And if I may, David, I just finished a book by a Facebook whistleblower by a woman named Sarah Wynne Williams. She wrote a book called Careless People. She also testified before the Congress. And it was incontrovertible from her being inside Facebook that Facebook collaborated with Cambridge Analytica's hack of people's personal
Mm-hmm.
information and elected Trump in 2016. They had invited Brad Pascal and they had Facebook teams and they were pouring money into these targeted ads customized with AI to nudge people.
Mm-hmm.
People on the progressive side were going to get more extreme,
Mm-hmm.
and the people on the right were going to get more extreme, and some people were going to be motivated to not bother voting because their vote wouldn't count or whatever.
I
And
mean,
so
I
when
saw firsthand, I had friends that were Bernie bros that were
yeah,
so against Hillary, understandably, in my opinion, against Hillary. I do not
yeah,
believe she was the right candidate. But these Bernie bros were pushed into supporting Trump, and it was so kind of mind blowing when you saw that happen in 2016, that you would be so far left and such a progressive uh,
right,
that your hatred of Hillary would be pushed into you supporting someone
exactly,
just, you know,
exactly. So,
overwhelmingly more vile and evil than Hillary.
yep. So one of the main themes of the book that Sarah wrote was how Facebook uses emotions,
Mm-hmm.
particularly negative emotions of hatred or fear, against the opponent to drive them to vote for your person. So as you were just describing accurately, their distrust of Hillary move them to Trump without thinking what are his qualifications. He's not a successful businessman.
Mm-hmm.
He's a pathological liar. He's a malignant narcissist. He said things like, I could kill somebody on Fifth Avenue and people will still follow me.
Well, one of the things that I do want to focus on, should
Please.
I have the opportunity to win my congressional race, is the tech bros and their social media platforms have abused society for far too long. So how do you go about regulating them? And the tricky part with that is, of course, the First Amendment and freedom of speech. Government cannot make any laws governing anybody or entity, thanks to Citizens United freedom of speech. But what you can do is you can implement laws of uh, uh, societal safety regulations that put a curb on these AI bots and AI bot campaigns that are posing
Mm-hmm.
as human beings trying to
Mm-hmm.
influence masses. So Facebook and Cambridge Analytica can continue to do what they did in 2016 in 2028. But without the use of bots, they're going to need to hire actual human beings to say the First Amendment freedom of speech lies that they're paid to say. If we do not
Yep.
regulate, I mean, even look at Twitter. When Elon purchased Twitter, he announced he was going to get rid of all of the bot accounts. And
Yeah. Another lie.
Upon purchasing Twitter, he did a complete 180 on that. And the reasoning for that is because the more total user account base that a platform has, the more value that platform is worth. Besides the obvious malicious use of AI bot accounts and bot farms in being able to put out influence campaigns from anti-vax to the big steal to any kind of, poor decision-making path audience that they just will not read into headlines or beyond headlines and actually research topics, even though they were all so very proud of calling themselves free thinkers for so very long.
Right. So a couple of points, if I may, David. So first of all, freedom of speech doesn't apply universally to behavior. The law is very clear. If you're in a crowded theater and you scream fire, but there's no fire, that's a crime. Why? Because people are likely to get hurt rushing to the exits. So if there is a fire, you still shouldn't scream fire. You should say, excuse me, move quietly to the exits. But nevertheless, the point is the lie that there's a fire is a crime.
Right.
So for me, that principle should apply online if people are saying something and it's not true and it's detrimental, like Trump did the birther lie against Barack Obama, saying it's not true he's an American citizen.
And we have things to address that with defamation, libel, and things of this nature. But when you're dealing with someone like Donald Trump, who has learned the art of the perpetual delay of the legal system, it kind of nullifies the legal system altogether.
Well, it's rich people can do that. Poor people can't keep, doing delay and such.
Right.
So I also want to talk about Musk, Zuckerberg, Bezos, Thiel, who owns Palantir.
The lieutenant colonels now buying their way into our armed forces, as they've all been appointed honorary officers within the United States Army.
Well, they have their own agenda, and it's not supporting democracy and citizens or countries because they don't want regulation. That's why they got Trump into power using their platforms this last election, because they don't want regulation. And as we do this interview, the GOP is working on the abomination bill that Musk called it. I don't like calling it what Trump calls it. The big bill to fund the government. And they have in it right now no AI regulation for 10 years.
Correct. And the public sale of something like 3 million acres of land, of public land, and tax cuts for the rich and tax increases for the middle class, and it's the Medicare,
undercutting Medicaid,
and, everything that everyone has always paid into, wanting to sunset Social Security, constantly saying that it's going insolvent because they stole from it for decades upon decades without replacing those funds.
Not true.
I mean, if the GOP really wanted to secure Social Security, then they should pay back every single penny that they took out of it.
Yeah, not give tax breaks to the rich. All of these are really, really important. I'm really grateful to you. I want to circle back to some of the posts that I'm remembering watching you talk about with, for example, ICE being masked, where they're not showing warrants, and what you as a citizen could or should do. You want to share some of your thoughts on that?
Yeah,
please?
and I do want to be very careful in how I say this, how I word this.
Take your time.
No, I'm just my family. My grandfather was a district attorney at Bakersfield. My mother was a career paralegal, and all of them always told me, whatever you say publicly, just make sure it can be repeated back to you in court one day.
Yeah.
So I'm very, very particular in how I word my posts on social media. I am 100% legal, and I will repeat here what I have said there. For anyone that is being in the process of being abducted without any kind of legal authority being provided to you in the way of a judicial warrant, a badge, an ID, any legal authority, read up on your state self-defense laws. Read up on your state self-defense laws and exercise them to protect yourself and others if needed. And we are seeing, and I said that specifically, not to infer any kind of imposing danger upon federal agents, but we are seeing what we all feared would happen, that there are now masked individuals posing as federal agents,
like this
robbing
guy
people.
Belter, who just murdered Hortman's
Correct.
in Minnesota.
Yeah. And there's
allegedly murdered, I should
there's
say.
been instances of, there was recently a black woman that was robbed by and bound and robbed by a white guy that posed as an ICE agent. Said he was an ICE agent. So, this is the problem when you do not follow the rule of law when you're practicing it, when you are law enforcement and you do not abide by the same rule of law, is people will imitate you and mock you and create public harm. So it's not only you terrorizing the neighborhoods by not issuing due process to all persons that are constitutionally protected. And I want to emphasize that because MAGA people online are so very misinformed, and they don't believe that undocumented migrants are afforded constitutional rights. That is absolutely provable wrong. That every person within the domestic United States are afforded constitutional rights. And to any MAGA person out there that has a problem with that, I say to you, you are an illegal immigrant. Prove it. Too late. Get in the back of an unmarked van. This is what happens when you are not afforded due process and constitutional rights. I don't care that you're white and they are brown. If you treat them without due process, then you too should be ready to forego your constitutional rights and due process. I don't care that you say that you're white and you were born here. Get in the back of the unmarked van and plead your case from El Salvador. Because that is how this federal government is behaving.
Yeah, and Trump actually said we want to deport citizens, not just illegal immigrants. He wants the power to deport citizens.
Yeah.
Which I am a citizen. I assume you are a citizen. I just want to underscore something I heard you say, which is study your state's laws, because it could vary dramatically from Texas to Massachusetts to North Carolina.
Yes.
I know in Massachusetts we have much stricter gun laws than anywhere else in the country. And so people should know their state's rights. And
self-defense laws and Good Samaritan laws, and know the difference between the two, because Good Samaritan laws are generally less forgiving as self-defense laws, and self-defense laws are also generally less forgiving in protecting others rather than just protecting yourself. So
say that again. Say that so that we can understand.
Read your state self-defense laws and Good Samaritan laws, because a lot of people conflate the two, that they're one and the same, and they are very much not so. Good Samaritan laws, where you are afforded certain protections under the law to be able to protect others and, say, stop somebody that's stealing from a store or robbing a bank, and you take the law into your own hands.
Or someone's getting abducted.
I would just say, be mindful of your state self-defense laws and Good Samaritan laws and read them. You can Google them, whatever state you're in. And it doesn't necessarily mean that if you act out upon and exercise your self-defense laws to protect yourself and others, that you will not get arrested after you perform that duty to protect yourself or others. But I can promise you one thing. You will be afforded constitutional rights to be able to plead your case of self-defense in court as
Hopefully.
opposed to on a flight to El Salvador.
Right.
That's the
Right.
that's the big difference I want to put across to everybody, is that you may still be detained and arrested for protecting yourself,
Right.
but you will have the opportunity, hopefully, in a
Hopefully.
just and law-abiding society, constitutional
Right.
society, to be able to plead your case for self-defense and protecting others in a court of law, as opposed to being, as some of my veteran friends would say, gagged and bagged and put on a flight out of the country.
Yeah, that's terrifying. It's truly horrifying. So, I wanna also just get back to your running. This is for 2026
2026, November,
as
the
an
general,
independent.
as an
Do you
independent.
have
So I don't have any primary.
do you have any funds? Do you have any
I have
people
raised to
stepping
date.
up?
I've raised to date $8,000, and I'm thankful for every single penny. I
Mm-hmm.
am. I've been incredibly busy. My official website. I have my official donation link already set up within the
Okay.
direct.me in all of my social media bios. It's a big American flag. You can't miss it once you click on that direct.me/empathy tour. My official website with all of my proposed legislation, all my plans of action, and ways to pay for everything and actually accomplish
Mm-hmm.
everything will be launched July 4th, Independence Day, and independent for Independence Day for all. But yeah, I will be going up against two monster money machines within the DNC and the RNC. I really wish the DNC would adopt my strategy for challenging these MAGA, greedy, rich politicians,
Right.
incumbents within these gerrymandered districts where running as a Dem ticket is impossible statistically to win, and support more independence. Because you'll
Right.
find across the nation in these gerrymandered districts, these registered Republicans don't even like their incumbent. You'd be hard pressed to find a single Republican under the age of 80 years old in my district, a white person that likes Virginia Fox, because representatives like Virginia Fox have been in office for 20 plus years and have not done a single thing for their constituents, while simultaneously making their families ungodly rich
Right.
off of their constituents.
So, David, do you have the URL yet, even though it's not launched for your?
It will be Clayton for Congress.
Okay.
Clayton number 4 Congress.com. And I'm
Okay.
just about finished on building the website. And
No rush, but when we put this
July
out, we'll
4th is
do
the
a
launch
blog
day. I
and we'll
appreciate
link
that. Thank
to
you.
it, and people will listen to
Yeah,
this for a
and it'll
while
be a
and stuff.
living, as every website should be. It'll be a living, breathing thing, and it will be evolving and changing. And I'll be adding tour dates and town halls and events and
Mm-hmm.
cookouts and barbecues and community events and uh,
So I
yeah,
just want to say categorically, from how it looks to me, I think there are millions of people who voted for Trump
mm,
who are disillusioned with what's happening, who don't like it one bit. But from my perspective, don't have been indoctrinated against Democrats
right.
and wouldn't vote for a Democrat aside from the gerrymandering, and who might resonate more with an independent who says, listen, I'm just for serving my constituents. That's how it's supposed to
And
be.
that's the whole thing, is
And
that I really want to try to put across this message of I'm not blue or nothing, I'm not red or nothing. We really need to get back to the red, white, and blue, because
right,
MAGA has been a campaign of division, and
right.
divided we fall. We
And hatred and othering.
right,
And also, we don't want to just I'm talking for you, but I'm just supporting you. We don't want to tell people we want to go back to the way it was before Trump. We
right,
want to go forward to a vision where we can have a big reach and
exactly.
appeal to folks and common sense, and to have a congressperson who says what they mean and does what they said they were going to do, and doesn't just lie or change gears because they're getting,
Or
lobbied,
spin everything. Just give a simple
or spin
answer to a
everything.
direct question. How hard is it?
Yep.
I mean, it really
Yep.
shouldn't be that difficult. But the problem is that these people, they represent their stock portfolios and their donors, and their special interests over the people. So we really need
Yep.
to get back to the literal definition of the word representative and what that means.
So who do you see are your core supporters? If you were to imagine forward, we know vets, because you've demonstrated your commitment to get services and support for vets. Who else?
Women. I often say that I am my mother's son, and I will honor her legacy, her life, by doing right by her and leading forward in how she raised me to be. I support women's rights. Women's rights are human rights. I
Amen.
support a woman's right to choose over her own body and have freedom of privacy, and the decision making between her and
Keep the government out of
her
their
and her
health
doctor.
care of their
You know,
bodies.
I
Yeah,
I am
good.
a self-proclaimed Christian, and I've been growing a larger. I don't want to use the word liberal, but I'll say forward-thinking and more in line of Christ-like teachings or Christ-like living than what these conservative Christians, kind of. I've often said that if you persecute others while calling yourself a Christian, you're actually more in line with the Romans than you are Jesus. And my faith,
Good point.
my faith also welcomes all faiths, be it
Mm-hmm.
Hindi or Buddhist or Muslim, or Jewish. Um,
Jewish. Yep.
all faiths, all walks of life, and those that choose to have no faith or have a spiritual or natural belief, because our
Mm-hmm.
government is not a religious entity, and we
Yeah,
need to
we have
keep
separation.
religion out of government. Keep your religion out of my government, and I'll keep my government out of your religion. Everyone is free to
Oh,
believe
write that
what
down.
they believe. Everyone is free to not believe what they believe, as long as we have a
Great.
fundamental understanding of right versus wrong moralistically. Do unto others.
And not, yeah, exactly. Don't do to others what you don't want done to you
Period.
is the, a version of the golden rule. May I just take a minute to add that in the last few days, David, as this horrible assassination took place by Belter in Minnesota, and he apparently wrote a letter to the FBI saying that he was going to kill people. So he doesn't, I'm not aware there's a confession signed after the fact, but so that's why I'll say he's the alleged assassin.
I think you interviewed, wasn't it a baseball player, college friend of his?
So that's what I wanted to
Yeah.
mention first. I learned that that he had been recruited by a cult of the William Branham cult, and I had interviewed John Collins many times. He's a friend and a colleague, former third generation Branhamite, and Christ for the Nations is one of those cults. And when I posted my interview with John, I get a comment from the floor mate of Vance Bolter who said, "We were college freshmen together. He was funny. We walked to baseball practice. He was a really good
normal
baseball
guy,
player.
and then he just abandoned everything.
Talked about girls and school, and then he got invited to a dinner off campus. And the next thing, he's back telling Vance, I've been told I have to quit the baseball, and do you want to buy my baseball bat?"
And if you see the progression of his life, and you see the video clips come out of him in, I think it was Africa, on some
Right,
mission,
Congo.
and putting out the transphobia and the gender phobia and the
Yep.
LGBTQIA phobia. These people, they use their religion as an excuse to intentionally, maliciously live immorally, and with hate towards others. And this is really what I say to combat them, as far as them that themselves that call themselves Christians. When I say you live a life of persecuting others, you are more in line with the Romans that persecuted Christ than you are Christ himself.
Uh-huh. Let me just comment on your comment just now, if I may, David, because we're just getting to know each
Mm.
other. You know that I got interested in the subject because I got recruited into the Moonies in the
I did not.
70s. I was a college student, so I had a radicalization where
Mm.
I became a zombie. That's what the floor mate said, where I thought everyone was satanic and demonic, and dropped out of college and recruited people, etc., and then got deprogrammed and learned about Chinese communist brainwashing. That's what started me on this
Mm.
life trajectory to want to learn about minds, how the mind works and how they can be influenced. And so for me, my models, like the influence continuum, which shows ethical influence, ethical religious groups to authoritarian cults, has very clear definitions of the authoritarian ones are behavior control, information, thought, and emotional control, to make a pseudo identity that's dependent and obedient on the prophet or the apostle or the
Mm.
Messiah or the avatar, where you have an external locus of control for what they tell you what reality is. So my version of what you just said is Vance Belter was a normal person who got deceptively recruited, brainwashed into a mind control cult, and over the 40 years got into something called New Apostolic Reformation
Mm.
groups, which I wrote about in The Cult of Trump, which has an estimated 30 to 40 million Americans in these mega churches. But how they're not Christian, the way you define Christian, is they have self-appointed prophets or apostles who say, God told me Trump won the election in
Mm.
2020. Don't believe the satanic media, the fake news. And they program these people to have the pseudo identity that's dependent and obedient. So how I would reframe what I heard you say is that these people have been programmed to believe they're doing God's will, but it's perverted the actual teachings of Jesus and the New
It is.
Testament.
It is. I mean, I keep a pretty simple life, and especially after my epiphany, I keep a very, very simple life. Um,
Mm,
as far as how I believe humanity really needs to take a hard look at things, whether it be religion or ideology, or even romantic love and partnerships,
mm-hmm.
is if more than 75% of your focus is on hating the subject matter that you're speaking about, something's wrong with your philosophy.
I would say 50 or less, even. There was
I
something
well,
wrong with it.
I'm kind of generalizing on percentages
Right,
here, but if the majority of your focus on what you focus on is of hating something else,
right.
something's fundamentally wrong with your thinking. Who wants
Yeah,
to live?
love.
Who wants to live like that? Who
Yeah,
wants to sit around being pissed off with something up your ass? Pardon my French. Every single day of your life. Who
right.
you can dislike things. You can. I hate war criminals. I hate
Yeah,
them. Okay. Um, I don't, and I will always speak out against things like people being war criminals. But I'm not going to revolve the entirety of my life
right,
around just focusing on hate.
right. And hate the behavior. You don't have to hate the class of people. Like I tell people, the Russian people are not the problem. Putin and the oligarchs and and the FSB are the problem. Like, don't hate Russians, don't hate groups of people.
Yeah.
This kind of simplistic thinking. But I want to come back to the great commandments, Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. Love God with all your heart, mind, and strength, and love your neighbor as you
Mm-hmm.
love yourself. And it's a love doctrine, not a hate doctrine.
It is, and a lot of people don't even realize the similarities between all doctrines. Every single studied scripture doctrine ever in the
Right,
history of man all has some version of love
right,
thy neighbor. Every single one, from the
right.
Quran to Judaism to the New Testament to the Book of Mormon. Every single religious scripture has some kind of message of love thy neighbor.
Yeah, I spent my afternoon with an ex-Mormon woman who feels it's a destructive cult, and that's another topic. But nevertheless, I just want to add a couple of nuances to the love God with all your heart, mind, and strength. One of the teachings that I received that really resonated for me is love God with all your heart. Now, that includes your doubts. That includes the rough parts of your heart. Like, if you give it all to God, that's
Well,
that's honoring. That's
and to
one
be quite frank
twist.
with you, with
Sure.
my religion, I was raised Lutheran, but my religion, I actually have a urban dictionary definition publication of my self-proclaimed Christianity religion
Mm-hmm.
is called anti-religious theist.
Mm-hmm.
It's a someone that just again focuses us on love thy neighbor, and the fact that all religions are subjective. What you believe is your belief. What I believe is my belief, and
Mm-hmm.
neither of us should have any claim or right to say that you are less than or more than a person than I, or
I'm with
me
you.
say the same as you, or to say that you are deserving of any land or possession over me, or to say that I am
Yeah.
more deserving of any land or possession over you. My religion is a religion of, as cheesy as it sounds, universal love. And to
Yep.
tie back into empathy as we began, because
Yes,
I know that
please.
you are an educated man. I began a thesis which I never finished,
Hmm.
which was very, very depressing to keep going. And I think that's one of the reasons why I never finished it. But it was
Was it a master's or doctorate or what?
no, I never finished my education.
Oh,
It was going towards my undergrad, but I never finished my
oh.
education. Unfortunately, I had to take care of family and our
Your
U.S.
formal
healthcare,
education,
my
but I'm
formal
sure
education.
you.
But we all continue learning and reading every single day, so we're always trying to educate ourselves as we go on through this life.
Yep.
But the thesis was the degradation of empathy within the American social economic structure leads to the subsequent replacement with apathy and prevents our species' ability to discern moralistically between right and wrong choices. So,
Yep.
as a crude example, speaking of all these apathetic people and these apathetic cult mentalities, if I were to walk up to you on the street and throw a cup of water in your face and not understand how that could negatively impact you, I have no remorse. And therefore, I see no error in my ways and continue those
Mm.
actions and accelerate continuing those actions. That's a very crude example, just a cup of water.
Right.
Think if I did it with a gun.
Mm-hmm.
This is the fundamental problem, and a really deep philosophical kind of precipice that humanity is struggling with right now. I believe is
Mm-hmm.
that if we do not get a hold on this self-governed, self-interest, self-motivated uh, uh, misbelief of self-preservation and embracing this apathy and do not hold on to empathy and
Mm-hmm.
understanding pain in others so that we do
Mm-hmm.
everything we can to protect others in order to protect ourselves as well, then
Right.
we are really, really in some dangerous footing for our future.
Totally. I totally agree. I mean, seriously, we need to build coalitions, and we need to not look at what divides us, but bring everybody together,
Exactly.
especially at this moment, to stop fascism and dictatorship from taking all of our rights away. And it's a critical moment, and I'm hoping people will not just settle with showing up for No King's Day on one day,
Oh, it's not going to
and
stop.
really roll up their sleeves. But we need to target the GOP senators and the Congress people right now, because they're talking about the bill.
Yep.
And we need to be clear. They have to honor their promise not to mess with Medicaid, Medicare, or Social Security, or increase the deficit by $3.4 trillion by giving tax breaks to people who don't need them.
You know, and I think one of the reasons why they're not so fearful about people calling them out is because they know how polarized the nation is. And they know that, especially in large areas of the country that are gerrymandered, like the district I'm in, that a Dem ticket has no chance of winning, and the people will continue to keep these GOP people in office, even though they go against the will of the people. And again, this is why I can't stress enough that the powers that be in the Democrat leadership side of things really need to invest in more independent candidates to challenge these GOP that know that their constituents won't vote Dem.
And make a message that's simple but true and uplifting and positive and gives us hope.
And come up with solutions.
Towards. Yes, practical
solutions that make the American public's lives better, instead of just kicking the can down the road and then doing this cycle of back and forth, make a law, repeal it, make a law, repeal it. The people want to see solidified change. You know, our nation is one of, respectively, because we are a baby nation, but our nation is one of the nations that has the least amount of constitutional amendment changes compared to any other modernized other country out there. India, I believe, has 294 amendment changes to their constitution. There was another country, I can't remember. It may have been Pakistan. I can't remember. India and Pakistan have been big in the news lately, but there was another nation that had something like 384 amendments to their constitution.
It needs to be a living document.
It's supposed to be, and it just kind of everything got the brakes put on it after the very last amendment. Which
we got hacked by the Federalist Society and Opus Dei, I'm afraid.
Agreed.
David Clayton, independent person running in the fifth district of North Carolina against Virginia Fox. Empathy tour on TikTok with 500,000 followers. Official empathy tour on Instagram with 400,000. And you've been championing the Character by Integrity Act to help vets and deal with the homelessness and the lack of resources that the government really owes our vets. And I want to thank you for your good work and your messaging. Your last words are yours, my friend.
I just wanted to say thank you very much for the opportunity. I appreciate your support, and it's been a pleasure.
Yep. Stay in touch.
Always.
Take care.